Welcome back to Buy Sword and Musket. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to have a look at another revolver which is held under the historic exclusion of 7.1. It's a fully active revolver, not deactivated. I do believe that deactivation is somewhat of a crime. But sometimes it's a necessary evil in the UK. But the weapon we're going to look at today, produced by Colt, good old American Colt, very successful. It was made between 1898 and 1944, commonly known as the new service model. The one we have here is one that was produced by Colt for the British World War One effort, of which they produced about 60,000 on demand. This one was made in 1917. We can tell that by its serial number. And also by the fact that this revolver, when made later on, from 1928 onwards, gained wooden grips, but in this form, in the earlier form, it's the hard plastic or rubberized grips, finished in blue, chambered in 4.55. There was only one technically larger caliber, and that was 4.76, another British designation. So 6-shot, extremely practical, really well made, very popular for those reasons, bought by a lot of British Army officers and brought in as what they call substitute standard by the War Department. So standard meaning it was a good and accepted substitute for the Webley revolver, chambered in the same caliber, of course. Now, just for funsies and to follow up on a previous video where I showed you a very small Colt revolver, in this video I'm going to compare that tiny new line 30 caliber rimfire revolver with this very large full-framed army revolver that we're talking about, because there are some very strong similarities of design and things that obviously were working well. So let's turn you sideways. Hopefully this will give you a better view of what we're looking at. Put on the rather grubby sacred white gloves. Now, I'll just take this label off. That's so I know what I'm looking at in I'm checking things out. Right, so here we are. A revolver. How do we check for safe? Well, it's what they call a swing out design. You pull this catch backwards, out comes the cylinder. You can then see straight down the cylinder that is physically empty. You can also see the barrel is empty. So that weapon is safe. So what we have is a beautifully produced, sturdy, full frame revolver. Gone are the days of an open top revolver, with a 5.5-inch barrel. Now let's just compare that to a little bitty diddy-widdy revolver which we looked at the other day. Isn't that an amazing difference? This is still a lethal weapon at close range, But this one is more likely than just wound you or stop you inside. It's more likely to blow you out the front door or through the window frame in standard cowboy type Hollywood issue. It still has a central groove down the top of the frame, and that has been narrowed in the case of this revolver, so giving you a V groove to aim with. But full frame, fluted cylinder, spur trigger, some similarities. Anyway, let's look at this monster. Now, these came about mainly because of the failings of the 1892 revolver, which was in service in the Philippines campaign. It was found that the caliber of 38 in those particular 1892s was not enough to stop maybe drug-fueled, crazed Moro fighter coming at you with an unsheathed Chris, which would probably be sharp enough to shave on and simply hack you to bits. They found that it didn't matter how many times you hit them with a 38, they were having instances of the attacking fighters getting shot but still carrying on. So they desperately called back the 45 Colt, and they upgraded the 1892 and produced this, which was really the 1898 model. Now, so that's the basic history of how this revolver came about, and it solved the problem. But this one itself, the history behind this one, we can tell by looking at the serial number, and that we instantly notice it's got hard rubberized or plastic checkered grips with the name Colt marked as part of the grip here. After 1928, these changed to wooden grips with a round Colt pressed in trademark in that position. The other thing that we have to prove in the UK is that it was made before 1919. That we get from the serial number and Colt's wonderful records. The serial number on this revolver is to be found on the inside of the frame here. Very small stamping. Almost have to look at that with a loop. And then to check that the cylinder hasn't been changed out, it has the same number on the swing out arm down here. So in collector's terms, as far as revolvers go, this is a matching revolver. If we took the grips off, we might find a number on the inside there. What's interesting is that they use the same ejection idea, bar perhaps the return spring of the Webley revolvers in service, in that there is a centralized sprung star, which once pushed up or pulled back, if I was holding this in a combat situation or a situation where I had to act quickly, they would be gone. Then they could be loaded either with half moon pressed steel or later with the full speed loading unit. So 45, or in this case 455 Eley, and double action. So once again, just to reiterate to those that may not have watched any of the other videos, double action is the ability to pull the trigger once, cylinder rotates, presents the next chamber, hammer is pulled back, and then at the full extent of the pull, the hammer is released and drops on to the back of the cartridge and fires it. So doing this only once because not wanting to damage mechanism, etc., this is what we're talking about. So very quick, difficult to see unless slowed down. But that means you can, at close range, if someone's coming at you, bang, 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 if you need to go that far with a 45 caliber. So that's why they were uprated to 45. But this one was ordered by the UK government, and to distinguish from the American caliber and make sure there were no mix-ups, it is noted on the barrel. There we are. You can see it says new service 0.455 Eley. This mark you might have spotted for a moment is the cross scepters of the British Proof House. Doesn't have a date or a crown on it. But then if we move to the back of the frame, we can see quite clearly at the top the crow's foot or Ordnance Department acceptance mark. So that has been accepted into British service, and there is a Enfield Crown Inspector's mark underneath. So everybody was getting an eyeful of these before they were issued or allowed to be issued to the troops or sold out privately to officers. Standard markings include the Colt 2-line address and list of patents along the top of the barrel. And that actually says Colt's Patent Firearms Manufacturing Company, Hartford, CT USA, with patent dates from 1884, 1900, and 1905. So, this has got a few later marks on it for UK private shooting, where it's been nitro-proofed at London. So, a very simple, very popular revolver. The sort of first British requirement really was, in fact, from the Canadians. Give them something to take to the Boer War. As I say, it then became very popular in World War One. And what's quite nice in collector's terms about this particular revolver is it has the acceptance mark that we talked about up here, but it doesn't have a sold out of service mark, which are two opposing arrows pointing at each other that often present or are read like an X. So this one never got officially hung up, which is quite nice because a lot of them are officially hung up. Oh yes, one other official marking, or standard marking, is the horse, the rearing horse on the back, or Colt Rampant as it's sometimes known, but I prefer rearing horse on the back, quite clearly there. Obviously finished in blue, good military finish, spurred trigger. Oh, apart from being actually double action, this revolver will operate as single action. So in taking a long or careful shot, you pull back to that position, and then a very light squeezing on the trigger will release the hammer. Just, you can see there, the centerfire hammer with a round pin, almost like the end of a nail, that will strike the center of the cartridges. For the novices amongst us, or people that may be confused by these issues, that is the rimfire hammer. Do you see that it is a flat bladed striker, as opposed to the pin, which hits the rim of the cartridge, as opposed to the pin that hits the center of the cartridge? I hope that is clear. So rimfire, centerfire. A very nice revolver, bit of history. This one's showing use in all the right places, in that the acids produced in the sweat and skin will act hardest upon the bluing and cause a loss of finish. So where the revolver is gripped, you can imagine hanging on to this before you go up the ladder and charge across no man's land, valiantly dodging machine gun bullets. A little bit of loss along the top, a thinning on the cylinder. It's all correct for a collectible piece, and all things you should be looking at if you're trying to find good examples. Also, the condition of the rubber grips. They're not cracked, they're not chipped. There is a lanyard on the bottom, typically military type edition, so that can be attached to your Sam Browne belt. You can imagine perhaps falling over, tripping over in no man's land, dropping or jumping into a shell hole, dropping it as you go. You can retrieve it. You find the end of your lanyard, pull it back to you. Being a revolver, very robust and able to function in very unpleasant conditions. So a good, strong service weapon, really the forerunner or a stopgap before the 1911 semi-automatic pistols came onto the scene, full blast. But an effective weapon, a strong weapon, something that's not going to let you down. Condition-wise, as collectors, we also want to look down the barrel and look at the bore. I'm going to try and reflect a bit of light up there. That one has got a lovely bore. It is showing use, but that's what they were for. It's been there. It's been out of the box, and it has been in service. But it is not pitted, and it has not lost rifling. Rifling is continuous. It's got some strange marks on the muzzle there, just on the crown, but I can't feel anything from those. Also, the chambers are nice and clean. Once again, condition is everything when you are collecting. Higher condition that you can afford on purchase, the better that piece is going to hold its value over time and return your investment to you. They ain't making no more of these, so they're going to go up in value. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening to More on Collecting in the UK. Not more on collecting, but more on collecting firearms. These are pieces of history that have been at the turning points. They have witnessed things. The old adage, if only they can talk, does come to mind frequently. Not that we want to know the gory details, but it makes you humble. It makes you respect the people that carried these and that have sacrificed or risked everything for our liberty and freedoms that we enjoy today. A darn good reason to preserve them, keep them. And really, we're only the keepers. This will be passed on after I have shuffled off this mortal core and hopefully held in the same sort of awe and respect that it is today. Thanks for joining me. If you like that, please click like and subscribe to my channel, and you will see and hear of all the interesting videos that follow, or visit me on my website, which is www.myswordandmusket.co.uk, or any comments, interesting stories about Grandpa's revolver or great-granddad's revolver that you may have. Greatly appreciated. Love to hear them. Have a good day.